Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. Today is a special webinar with Susanna Raj and a working session to work on your abstracts. And my name is Pariya Serene, and I'm an information technology management major at UCSC. And I also aspire in the future to do technical product management. And I'm also program chair of Global South in AI. So now I'll introduce Susanna, who is also program chair of Global South in AI. And yeah, Susanna, I'll hand it to you.
Okay, thank you, Pariya, for the introduction. So, for those who are very new here and for those who are already joining us from our past, acquaintances with Global South in AI's first abstract poster presentation at New IPS, welcome. So, Global South in, let me tell you a little bit about Global South in AI. It was an affinity group that we founded with New IPS, Neural Information Processing Systems conference, which is one of the premier machine learning conferences in the world. It was conducted at New Orleans, and they do have these affinity programs to include people who are working in the diversity inclusion space within AI, but don't have a footing within the major conferences. So affinity groups are founded within each conference, and we can come and have our own mini conference, run our own mini conference within your IPS, and then present our posters at the main event. So it's actually like an exposure to us to have an entry point into the main event. So like that, women in machine learning, Black in AI, Latinx in AI, Indigenous in AI, like there are like a lot of affinity groups at major conferences. We established with New IPS as Global South in AI to include all the Global South languages that are not part of the large LLMs currently right now. I mean the LLMs, large language models. Because I'm from a Global South country, my native land is India, and I come from Tamil Nadu, which is the southern part of India, which is a state in the southern part of India, and I speak the language Tamil. So one of the things that I found very irritating was that, my language was almost butchered by ChatGPT, by Siri, by Alexa, by all of those language transformer models, translation models, that, and even Google also. Whenever I try to find a translation for some word that is in Tamil and I try to look up in English, it will not give me the correct translation. Even though I'm a native speaker, I do know how to read, write a little bit, but my reading and writing skills are not as great as my speaking skills. But because I grew up as somebody who was, that was my initial language of learning, I have a fluency that is considered much higher than what I see when somebody is trying to translate a text back to me in English from Tamil. I could immediately tell what the problems are, the cultural nuances, the slangs, the historical significances of that meaning is lost in the translation. So we had a lot of discussions back and forth. I mean, you can complain all day long, but instead of complaining, we decided we should do something about it. And Sudha and me and Yashaswini, who is here, along with Pariya, we all decided, we should form a group and that is especially dedicated to bringing Global South languages into AI. And that's how this was done. Last year, when we were accepted as an affinity group, you have to submit a proposal and the new IPS committee has to accept you as an affinity group. We did that and we got accepted as an affinity group. When we got accepted as an affinity group, now it is up to us to decide what kind of a mini conference or workshop or meetup that we want to run. Our first last year's program, we ran a very keeping up with the standards of New IPS, which it's a very strict, double-blind peer review process. It is asking for the highest level of ethical standards and also for the highest level of research standards. So we kept up with that. We thought, we could bring the global south countries and also introduce new researchers who have never done research. So we held a lot of workshops, and Yashaswini did an amazing job teaching people how to create posters, how to submit abstracts. And we hosted a lot of webinars and handholding and brought a lot of people into the New IPS conference, 31 authors from 8 countries, 12 languages. So I always mix the two. It is 8 countries, 12 languages, 8 global south countries, 12 languages we brought to New IPS. That was really an amazing, achievement for 4 people to actually do that, sitting here and to bring all of that. And we were very proud of the posters we presented and the presentations. You can see all of them, Pariya. You can share our website link. Where they can actually see all the past posters. New IPS does not keep an archive of affinity groups, poster presentations or paper presentations. So we felt that's not fair. So we actually created this website. So all of our past presentations, posters, everything is archived here. So it's a digital archive that you can always go back and see, and you can link back to your personal profile as well. So we felt this brings more representation and exposure to all the new authors that submitted first time at this major conference. So you can actually listen in, all of those are videos, you can actually listen in and also read all the posters and all the images. It was a pretty, from Kenya, from India, and also from Nigeria. And we had, there was another country, Bari language, Inki, who is also in our audience, submitted one from that country. So it was all low resource languages, and how people were struggling to build models, to do data collection, to actually train the AI in the difficulties that they had. They presented it as a poster, and also they have found it was like a solution, and a solution that they thought of that would help. They came up with that and presented it as a poster. That was last year's conference. It was, we actually received about 21 submissions. We picked 12 of them that went through the double-blind peer review process, and it was done, submitted and presented. Some of them were able to come virtually and attend the conference and present. And some of us in them joined actually in person at New Orleans and did that. So that was last year, and we received a lot of feedback on Global South in AI's approach. And many were, still felt like the process was too much of a barrier to entry, that they were not able to, get into the poster, the presentation itself, because it was the same barriers of entry that they were seeing at New IPS, and we were actually establishing the same standards and actually creating those barriers of entry. Again, although that wasn't our intention, we received those feedback and we said, okay, this year we are going to do something very different. And it's going to be an open call. There will be no peer review. There will be no double-blind peer review or single-blind peer review. It's just going to be an open call. We are going to have a limit on the amount of posters that people can submit, because when you have an open call, I mean, you can't take 100 posters and submit, go there, because they also have a limited space for it, whether it's virtual or in person, they have a limit. So we thought we will take at least 30 submissions from people who are from the global south countries. It has to be a problem statement from the global south, language. Anything that you find that is useful or impactful in your country's language generated by AI. Currently, whatever the language, ChatGPT bot or whatever you are using, whether that's going to be something that you find impactful, useful, or let's say beneficial, whatever word you want to use. But if it is impactful, useful, or beneficial, tell us about it. If you think ChatGPT failed you, failed your language, failed your country, failed your, histories of your, the nuances, the cultural information of your country, failed you miserably, and actually, is doing you some harm in some way to your cultural history, to your language, tell us about it. It has to be either the positive impact or the negative impact. Tell us about that. Or you think it actually missed a useful case, there's something missing in it that, you wish it had. Tell us about that. So it can be those three, use cases, three, tracks that we are following. And then, after you submit the 250 word, telling the problem to us in 250 words, we are asking you to actually prepare either a poster, a demo, or an art exhibit. We included the art exhibit this year because some of the artists were not able to get in last year, and they were, very upset, like, that wasn't one of the acceptable formats to present at New IPS. So we did that. Many of the affinity groups actually do have an art exhibit, track. So we also use that, this year. So we will have an art exhibit, a demo, or a poster, but you have the choice. A poster is one of the traditional options. The demo is, it can be a video or a visual performance demo of a, let's say you built a chat GPT, or, you built a chat bot or something, using chat GPT, and you want to demo it, or you want to demo how the, any of the generative AI tools are working or not working as a presentation. That's also can be a demo. And then, of course, you can either create a painting, you can create a music or a video or something, a poetry, anything that you want, and then showcase any of the three things, three tracks that we mentioned, a positive impact or a negative impact or a missing use case. So, Paria is actually sharing our Global South in AI, the call for abstract, call for feedback here. So it's if you go to our website, up at the very top, you can actually click and submit, and you just have to write 250 words and tell us about this. But what I want out of this webinar is that I just gave you an overview of our history of why we established this, where we are now, and the reasons behind this year's call. Personally, I already told you that, based on feedback, we changed our call this year. But personally, when I was in India, I went after a very long time, went back to my country, and then to see all our friends and relatives. The amount of, the hype that was going on here in February and March about ChatGPT was almost zero over there. But also when the hype actually filtered out over there, I heard a different kind of feedback from the people over there compared to the people over here. In many ways, it was almost like, this is going to help us in so many ways. It's going to help us build out solutions, build out products. It is an easier, cheaper way for us to use this new technology. This new AI is now becoming accessible to us, and we are able to do that. And then there was also like anger and, disappointment at how poorly it was behaving in some of the languages, in our own languages. And that frustration also I saw over there. But it didn't matter whatever was, posted online, anyone was posting online here, it was always met with some kind of a pushback against from here, the global north. People were like, it's actually, it's not as, there are like privacy concerns with it. There are data privacy issues. There are copyright issues with it. AI is trained on all of these, stolen data. So you shouldn't be so happy about it. And then if they were, complaining about the lack of representation, it was again, pushback saying, ChatGPT was trained on 7 languages, and it is, it uses zero-shot transformation models for the 95 other languages. So it's not going to work for your language. You should be patient with that. So it was either always a pushback from this side to that side, And there was not enough of a platform given where somebody could freely, in a safe space, either praise this new innovative tool, that how it is, beneficial for their country, for their language, or actually call out its deficiencies and come out and say that as well. So what we wanted to do was, based on last year's feedback as well as this new, revelation that I thought I was getting from all the social media posts and all the research publications that I was seeing, and all the back and forth in all of those channels that I was personally seeing, is that, we need to give a safe space for everybody to share their views and opinions. So do not look at this as a submission, as an abstract, or, it's a research thing. I have to do all of that. Think of it as a feedback. You are giving a feedback on a global platform. We are giving you free reign to actually share that on a global platform in the most simplest way possible. There is nobody is going to reject your proposal. If we reach the 30 and yours is the 31, we will still take it. But if yours is the 35th, or, is going above our capacity, then we may reject it. But as long as we get the 30 submissions, we are going to accept all 30 of it, as long as it is in a language, it is addressing generative AI in your language, in your Global South language, one of those tracks, it's going to be accepted. You don't have to worry about any barriers to entry. Nobody is going to keep you away from this opportunity. So use this opportunity to submit a feedback where it will be heard on a global stage by millions of people, and anyone who is, coming to Neuro IPS, which is one of the biggest premier machine learning and AI conferences, they are going to hear about it. They are going to hear all your concerns, your praises, your missing use cases, and it's going to be an exposure for our Global South languages. So that's what we are trying to do this year. Make it as simple as possible, as easy to get in as possible. And even the submissions and the 3 options that we are put in is like, we are not even saying, because some people last year were struggling to make a poster, and Yashaswini was giving several webinars on how to create a poster, how to take an abstract and create a poster out of it. So we are now saying, if you don't want to go down the poster route, you can, there's artex or exhibit, a visual art exhibit route for you, and the demo can be either an audio or a video. So we're making it pretty easy for you to do it, and it's only the first portion of this submission process is just 250 words. So I hope all of you can submit, or if you still have questions, I still don't understand what you're talking about and how we can make a use of this opportunity. Today is the day where I'm going to answer everything. Pariya is here, Yashaswini is here, I'm here. The only missing person is Sudha Jamthe. She is on travel. So Sudha Jamthe and me, we are the co-founders of the Global South in AI. And Pariya, me, Yashaswini, and Sudha, we are all program chairs. You can ping any of us in any of the channels. Of course, you can talk to me right now, and even after this, you have questions, you can ping us and we will be able to answer all your questions. So with that, I will stop talking and I will ask you to talk or tell me if you have any concerns or you want to share it. I see a lot of chat, but I haven't looked at the chat.
Susanna,
Hi.
it is just that I was putting whatever you're trying to tell. I was just putting the text of it so
Okay,
that
thank you.
everybody gets it. And I think Sirisha had a question.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me. I just want to know about the demo. Could it be an animation, or it should be like a short video? If it is, what is the duration of the demo should be? Is
10
it
minutes?
limited to
10 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much.
10 minutes video, audio, animation, or you just talk to the camera itself. We don't mind as long as you're sharing something uniquely concerning or, praiseworthy or impactful about your language that ChatGPT is doing or not doing, or you think it should be doing, you tell us.
So it has to be around language only.
Yes, language, generative AI. We are trying to focus only on languages, Global South languages. I know generative AI includes images too, but you can use your language to generate an image and then say, hey, it's not meeting that standard. So that's also fine, but it has to be in your local language. I mean, I could prompt Mid-Journey or something like that use a Tamil word or, a Telugu word or one of the languages from our country, and then see that it's not understanding it, or it's, I actually showed it in a previous demo. I used one of the words, because last year our poster was on gender constructs in language, and I used one example from that in which I shared how I used in India, there is a prefix before a woman's name that indicates whether she's married, unmarried, single, or divorced, or all those things are like, whenever they ask you to put that prefix in all the government applications and all the public places, we are actually announcing our marital status, which is not the case for men. So it's just Mr. so and so, that's it. But here it will be Mrs. or Miss, or it will may even ask if you are single. Actually, some of the applications ask if you are single or never married. So if that is, so I used that and I said, the word in the prefix is Kumari. Kumari means unmarried, single. Srimati means married. So I put that Srimati goes shopping and into one of the image generators, and it actually showed a much older woman going shopping. So it's like that the inherent bias is there in the system. So you can show something like that, something you be creative, show that, using my language. What I was trying to say in our last year's poster is that those are some of the constructs in our language. We know that, but we are trying to get rid of that. But AI is bringing it back to us, even though we have, established laws and, public policies where, we are trying to get rid of those constructs, but AI is learning those biased constructs and feeding it back to us. So that's an, creative way of showing that. But it has to be about language. It can be an image, but generated from a language.
Susanna, there is a question from Vamana Yashwant. I would like to read it out for you.
Okay.
The question goes like this. I would like to ask, does that abstract should contain all the 3 tracks? And our solution inside it also should consider all the 3 tracks. That is, you mentioned the 3 tracks. So the question is about that.
No, you pick only one. You can choose only one. You want to choose 2, if you have like so much time on your hands to do that, like go ahead. We can accept 2 submissions from the same person, but we are asking you to do only one track. Choose any one of those 3 tracks and choose any one of those 3 options.
Thank you, but I would like to rephrase the question again. That my question is that whether the abstract should contain only the 3 tracks or the 3 tracks plus our solution inside. That how we are going to solve the 3 tracks or any of the track.
Yeah. We will love to hear your solution. You can create a problem statement and say, hey, I think this is how it should be solved.
Okay, that you are expecting that it in the abstract, or it's in different in poster?
We are not expecting. If you are just, addressing the problem, bringing to us and saying this is the problem, but you don't have a solution, that's fine. But if you have a solution, you want to include that, that's also fine.
Okay, thank you.
Those are great questions.
Susanna, I think when he meant track, he meant the three tracks that we initially mentioned about impactful, negative, positive, those three tracks. He's asking whether all of them should be there in the abstract. So here there are two things, right? The one is the topic of it, the other one is the mode of presentation, whether it is a demo or a visual exhibit or it's an poster. So thanks for the answer.
I think also, Susanna said you can also make multiple submissions. For example, you can make one submission that has to do around a good use case of generative AI in your language, and then you can make a second submission of a missing use case, for example. So in that sense, you can focus on one specific use case of generative AI in one of your submissions, and then if you have time to make another submission, then you can also do that.
Yeah, definitely. If you have time, you can definitely do that. The deadline for the abstract portion, the first, writing out your problem or your solution is August 31st. But that's all you have to do only now. After that, for you to create the poster or the demo or the video or, art or whatever you're trying to do, the method of presentation, you have time. So we will actually work with you also. You have time until, I would say we haven't decided on the date yet, but I think it's going to be in November. So you will have time from now till November to actually come up with a mode of presentation. What is somebody asking? Okay.
I can read it for you.
Okay.
Can we focus our research on, example, the impact generative AI is having in terms of lack of representation and the global south on decision making and pre-existing biases? That's the question.
So you are asking, you want to make a general poster or, focusing on your research in the impact of generative AI in total with regards to all the global south languages, not particularly picking a language, but actually focusing on the general research. Is that what you're asking?
I think it's Susanna. Yeah, just looking at the perspectives of language on decision making and whether we can look at biases in maybe one language or all languages.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. So let me ask all of you here, any one of you can answer. Tell us, what do you know about generative AI? How far are you in testing out all the new gadgets and apps and services that's coming every day? And how comfortable are you with all of them? Just open mic. You don't have to come on camera. You can just talk.
I'm pretty comfortable with ChatGPT 4. I use it with many of the plugins to help me expedite my daily activities. I clean my history all the time. I'm not really concerned about privacy because I avoid sharing too much.
Okay.
However, I've given it my description, what I want it to remember. I'm using it in English,
Okay.
not in Spanish, which is my native language. But I'm now testing and curious about Midjourney and gender neutral Spanish. I use Midjourney for prototyping a lot, but in gender neutral Spanish, I'm not sure if it will understand the nuances. So I'm testing that, and maybe I could probably make out a case for an issue to be solved. Probably. I just need to find out more, because what I see is when I use Spanish, the type of images that I get are very different from what I use if I do the same prompt in English. So that's very interesting, but I'm not sure if it's a case to present yet.
Okay. Anyone else?
May I?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I've used generative AI. I've used a lot of done some research with and about ChatGPT, especially 3.5, which I've used quite a lot, and Bard, and the other options that they have. It's really helped me on the one hand because my PhD thesis is in the interaction of law and technology and AI and all that. So there are some very technical terms I may not quickly understand. You could just get a quick summary. And again, due to the privacy issue, I'm very cautious with what information I have there because for some reason I developed software also. So I have a little understanding of what goes on at the back end, and it really just scares me to put out information there. But recently, there's a master student I was seconding in the supervision, and he told me he had finished writing his thesis, and I can actually vouch for him. Submitted it to the professor, and then he was marked down. He was told that most of his project, his thesis, was taken from this AI detectors have detected that most of his thesis was written with the help of AI or something like ChatGPT. And I know because I know before ChatGPT 3.5 even came up sometime in November last year, he had finished writing the most part of his work. So when he brought this to my attention, I started some personal research on it, and I realized that it's something I wrote today about it on LinkedIn. It's really a lot deeper. It's going to exclude people who are not native English speakers. I heard you mention this at the beginning of, during the introduction. So I got some books that were published, even one that was published by Cambridge University Press in 2008, long before the whole generative AI hype came up. And it was written by a Nigerian, a very popular Nigerian professor who had lectured in Cambridge. And it flagged that there's a 64% probability that this content, this is the introduction to the book. It flagged it as having been, So I also tried with research some other things that were published by the so-called native English speakers, and the result was completely the opposite. So I kept trying this. I've tried this with so many. I've tried it with ChatGPT 0. I've tried it. I'm yet to try it with on Turnitin, because I heard recently that Turnitin also has the AI detecting function. So I would like to try it there. And from this, it's easier to tell that if you're not a native English speaker, it's going to reduce the opportunities in the academia. And I feel it's going to be the same everywhere that writing is required. So I don't know whether this is something, because it's not specifically on a particular language, but it's going to affect a large percentage of those from the global south, because this is where we don't have English as native language. It's going to slow down career paths, those that want to be in the academia. You get to a point, imagine finishing your PhD thesis and submitting and being told, no, this was written by AI. And then you have to start going back to start writing. I wrote almost 400 and something pages, and I can't imagine being told that for the past 2.5 years, whatever I've been working on, having sleepless nights on this, So it's really going to affect researchers, especially in the academia. Those, if you do anything that requires writing, even journalists, when you submit some of these proposals, or you're looking for funding opportunities, when you submit your proposal and you're being told that, no, this was written by AI, it's not your original work, then it's going to slow down the opportunities for those from the global south. So I actually wrote a bit about this on LinkedIn this morning, because for the past 2 weeks, I've been doing tests on this. I've tried it with things I have written myself. I sat down and I wrote a whole paragraph straight from my head, and I tested it, and it told me that there's a 90% probability that this was written by AI. Now, my English I think it's really good, because my parents are from different places, so I've spoken English since I was born. Now, I also speak German, so maybe you have a little of those nuances from the German language. And, so I don't really get that. It's something I'm still working on, but I think it would be something interesting for us to also look at.
No, that this is actually a very global problem that most of us, even as recently as I think 3 days back, Ali K. Miller also posted and said, we should never ever use AI detectors for,
Yeah.
it's like a reverse Turing test, right? It's like we, the humans, now have to prove that we are human. So
Exactly. And I thought of that. Why do I have to? A professor in my university said, whenever you're sending an email now, you have to sign at the end that this email was written by a human. And I asked him, why do I have to prove that I'm human?
yes.
It's my email address, so you should be able to presume that it came from a human. Then you could think of something else, but then I don't have to start telling everybody, hey, I'm human, or whatever I'm writing. Oh, this was written by me. I should be given the benefit of doubt that it was my work before someone presumes, oh, it could have come from an AI. So it's something I'm really just working on. And for the next couple of months, I'll just keep working on that.
Well,
see
whatever you said now is enough for a 250 abstract for you to submit. So you can just submit that, and then that's a great use case that you have identified. That I see many of like that Dare Institute from Timnit Kibru.
Yeah.
So she has received a lot of such emails from students whose GPAs were affected because the professors were using either Turnitin, Grammarly, or any of those AI detectors. They are supposed to be AI detectors, but the way they are using it is like, are you a human detector? So that's how they are using it. And then the reason it is impacting those who learned English as a second language is that we didn't learn it in the informal way of, actually immersive way that people here who are born here learn a language, the immersive way in which I learned Tamil, my language.
Yeah.
But we learned it with structure, with all the, verbs and adjectives. You have to use this proposition. You have to do this, past tense, present tense. We were learning it structurally. So when we write it structurally, the way ChatGPT actually writes.
Yeah.
So that's why we are being flagged.
Yeah, and the perplexity score is just reduced. Okay. Well, I'll get an abstract in the next couple of days, and then I'll see. It's something quite interesting, and I really hope it's something we can figure out.
Yeah.
Before it gets
Just write 1 or 2 lines each on each of the Turnitin, Grammarly, whatever detectors that are out there, and then say this is the problem and why it is impacting us from the global south. These are the reasons, and if you have a solution, fine. Don't have a solution. Why is it that people who are impacted have to come up with a solution? I don't understand that.
Well,
I am the one impacted. I don't have to come up with a solution for the problem you created, in which I am the victim. So,
well, I think the problem is basically because now we understand that the guys that are creating the problem are just capitalists, and they're not going to listen to us. So if we don't find solutions, if we wait for them, they would keep telling us they will come up with a solution, and it will never come, and we'll keep suffering all the while.
Yes. So the burden is on us to identify the problem, and the burden is on us to actually come up with a solution.
Yeah.
It's unfair, but it is how it is. So I guess we, come up with something, just very easy. I mean, if you want our help, any of our help, in looking at your abstract, first draft, second draft, we can do that and just submit. So this is actually a very emerging problem, and I think the regulation has to come in strongly here. This is one area where, the lawmakers really have to spring up and take action and say, universities, schools cannot use ChatGPT AI detectors, because before that they used to use that for detecting plagiarism. Like the most, that professors at my university told me is, please don't use Wikipedia, because then, all the Turnitin and Grammarlys will actually think you are copying from Wikipedia. So don't use any references from Wikipedia. But now it's not even like that, because do you know ChatGPT was trained on Wikipedia? So Grammarly is going to now reject my essay, or whatever project I'm going to turn it in. It's going to reject that because it's going to think she copied from the internet, or had an AI write it for her.
Yeah, people are actually trying to come up with some very smart solutions to this. Someone suggested that you could also, when your professor tells you your work was written by an AI, you could also pick his own something he wrote, and I mean, one of these random detectors is going to flag it. But the problem is, if your professor is a native English speaker, the likelihood is very slim that you're going to have that. For me, it's fine because Germans are not native English speakers, so we're going to have the same problem basically. But I can imagine the thing with people living in the UK, for instance, or the US. It's going to be hard to use that option to prove that.
Yeah. So that's a great idea for a submission. So anyone else have any ideas in their mind and they are thinking, should I submit or not? Let me know. I think Samantha already gave her idea and Gabriel also shared his idea with us. So they are all good to go, and we are looking forward to your submissions. Anyone else wants to talk through?
Yeah, hi, this is Abhinaya. So I've been working in the NLP space for quite a long time, close to 10 years now, and I have seen things, how things were before LLM came into picture and how things are now. So and mostly, since I come from again from the southern part of India and I also speak Tamil, I'm very interested in low resource NLP particularly. So recently, I've been taking part in initiatives that are more into collecting quality data for low resource languages, because I think the first thing that should be addressed is collecting high quality data. Though a lot of us speak some of the underrepresented languages, still getting high quality data is actually a big problem, right? Like we don't get people to contribute to their language. So like right now I'm kind of involved in Cohere for AI's open science initiative, where we are trying to collect data for 101 underrepresented languages across Europe, Asia, and Africa. So during that time, I also encountered few other potential things that I can do for my own community, as in locally. I know companies like a lot of companies are still doing many open source work in terms of building models or collecting data and everything, but then uh, it has to start from the community itself, right? Like people who are speaking a particular language, they have to come together to do things for themselves. So I think mostly my abstract is going to be around addressing some issues that we as Tamilians are facing with respect to representation in ChatGPT or any other language model for that matter. So I've been working on few things. Maybe I'll pick something that is very relevant to this initiative, and then probably I'll make a submission. So I just wanted to let you know.
Okay. So we have Adri and Gabrielle, Abhinaya. Did I miss anyone else who said they are going to submit? Samantha, who already left, yes. So yeah, I think we are looking forward to your submissions. We made it very simple, very easy for you, so don't overthink it. If you see the problem and you are already suffering with the problem, just state the problem as you have stated here on this call. Just write it out and submit. So that's your first step. If you get that done, then then we will work with you, or you can brainstorm with us and with your friends, or anyone from this community also. See how you can present it in any of the formats. It will be fun. It will be a fun way. We are it's not fun for us to see being impacted by all these problems, but at least let's make this process a fun experience. So, and who else wants to go? I see Suresh, I see Aisha too, I see who else? Ine, I know Ine. So anyone wants to go? No?
Okay, I can. Yeah, I can go.
Yeah.
So I'm Ramsey. I really love the idea from, was it Adrian, for the low resource languages, because I'm actually working at Derivation NLP as a data scientist, and one of the because it's actually a product of SIL International. It has like all kinds of data set on languages, and then we've seen Meta coming up with these models that try to preserve the indigenous languages. So I feel like, yeah, that would be an area I would really want to write something about just using generative AI in preserving the languages, indigenous languages, right? Using LLMs. Yeah, from Meta, they've even launched the Seamless research. I think yesterday or the day before. Yeah, which is interesting because now we can see. I think they only have like only 100 languages have like the perfect translations. But then, like for my country, Swahili is more of a national language because it's spoken in more than 3 countries. But then for my mother tongue, it's not like represented. And when you see translation even from ChatGPT, it's not good. And when it comes to data set, yeah, as she mentioned, it's a huge problem because we don't have like quality data set to improve the, yeah. So I think that would be. Thank you.
We look forward to it. We look forward to it. And we have a Slack channel. I can ask Paria to create a Slack group for this entire, anyone who attend this call. So you can talk to each other, talk to us or talk to each other and, help each other out and submitting. So the reason we have an earlier submission date for the abstract is that by saying that, we accepted all your abstracts, we can actually process if you're going to come in person to New IPS has a whole visa processing and all that. So for you to see whether there's enough time for you to process all of that and for you to come to it's in December 11th, I think, if I'm not wrong. So it takes you that much time to actually process everything. So that's why we are. Okay, so who's somebody? Golda. First time joining in, just got into a wonderful group via LinkedIn this morning. Okay, thank you, Golda. Welcome.
And I'm going to post the invite link to Slack in the chat. So we can all join the Slack as well right now.
Yeah.
So you can also ask all your questions on the Slack and collaborate with other people and the past presenters.
Yes. Yeah, you should actually one of the past presenters is here, but you should actually get in touch with all the people who have presented in the past. That's a great way to build community, build support system for yourself. Yash, I see you have your hand up.
Susanna, I just wanted to know if 2 people can collaborate and make a submission.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I was just thinking of machine unlearning. So ChatGPT has taken my language and learned something. Now, if I say that it has learned it wrongly and it has to learn correctly using the correct text, how do I go about doing it? So that is the problem that I want to bring it to light, that it has used some data, which I don't know whether it is right or wrong, whether it was curated, and what do you think about it?
No, I wouldn't say it's wrong for us to ask the machine to unlearn what it has learned about our language if it has learned it incorrectly. So it's like the same way we would correct anyone who is learning a second language. If it is our language, we would just be saying, hey, that's a slang and we use it only in these circumstances. So you used it in another circumstance, which it can be perceived as an insult. So we correct. If they are our friends, we correct them, we tell them, how to use the language properly. So why is it any different for a machine? So we should actually be correcting. I heard some very bad things about AI, like recently, like it in an African language. I'm not sure where the link is if I had it, but it's actually, there was something, a word for a husband or something it was using, and then in the language that it was presenting, that was called a prostitute. Somebody had posted it. Yeah, right. I don't know the exact context, but it's a serious, insult,
Yeah.
right?
That's very common. It's something another thing with ChatGPT that I've also found out, and it's something I'll look into in the future. There are certain words in certain languages, especially in Nigeria. We have over 500 languages, so there are certain words that are forbidden in some languages. It shouldn't be used. There are certain words that have certain meanings that normally, for instance, some words that children should not be allowed to have access to, some kind of language. But then you find kids looking for the meaning of these words in ChatGPT. And funny enough, they get the right meaning and give a very wrong information to a group of people that shouldn't get that information. Another thing, if you ask ChatGPT to show you how to make a gun, for instance, in English, it's likely not going to give you that information. But there's a bypass that they use local languages. So you can use a local language and it asks you, what's the meaning of this word? I don't know the meaning of this word. Or it gives you, and you say, oh, this word means a gun. Now you've broken that into 2 steps and it gives you the information you needed. So the use of the word in another language that it doesn't understand, I don't really know how it works, but I think it tweaks the memory. It makes it, just loop. It creates a loop over the check that, it should have over some of these words. So it does not prevent the system from giving out that information. Once you now give it the explanation of that word, it does not go back to the beginning. It doesn't look back to the beginning. It just takes what it got and then it continues. It now gives you, full information about maybe how to make a bomb or how to make a gun, simply because you said it in another language. It didn't get it, and then you told it what it means in the language. So there are lots of things embedded in these languages, and it's causing a whole lot of some small communities don't allow the use of certain technologies because of these things that have been found out, especially in Nigeria. Yeah.
So yeah, it's unlearning. Yes, machine unlearning. That's an interesting title, Yash, for your poster or your submission, I think.
Yeah, I plan to do it with Yashwan, who is also here. So I plan to do it with him together. So I thought he can have one alone, that the idea that he already is concretized, and one we can collaborate together and do it.
Yes, Christine, you can submit multiple abstracts as long as they are about different, they address different tracks. If it is one person, I think you can submit on the same track if you find a different use case of that, but depends, you can talk it out with us. We are trying to be more open this time, not put any barrier for anyone. So talk it out with us, but some multiple submissions from the same person on various use cases or different problem statements or different solution statements are accepted. So yes, and who else should I call? I should do. Christine already went, Ransi went. Yashwant is doing one with Yashaswini. So who else? Who else wants to go? Or if you don't feel like going now, you can talk to us offline. Or if you have any more questions, it would be a good time to ask.
Yes, sorry, Suresh. Yeah, I think your message was very encouraging. So I have a problem statement, but I don't have a solution. Come up with an abstract, but with the time given, I may explore to figure out some solution that could be made. I will submit an abstract, in a few days. That I'll work on the solution later on. That was very encouraging, actually. At least identify the problem and then figure out if I can come up with a solution later on. So that's good.
Yes. Yeah. Identify the problem. Yeah.
No, these are like, like everybody's, these languages are not very represented. Maybe they're not good tools that are there. right? So to come up with a easily buildable solution was a little challenging. I was racking my mind with some of these things, but I think I'll come up with an abstract to submit it.
Yes. If you can even tell us about the problem, it's fine. If you don't have a solution, that's fine. If you have one, that's also fine. You can share with us. And we have gotten rid of the peer review process. So anyone who felt like they couldn't get in because of the peer review process, it was too strict, double blind peer review process. And we had multiple steps in the peer review process, also similar to newer IPS. So it was very, people were not understanding of how the peer review process works, back and forth, rebuttals and responses from your peer reviewers, multiple peer reviewers saying yes or no. And all of that process, was a little complicated for many. But this time, none of those exist. So if you are one of those 30 submissions that we are looking for, you are going to get in, as long as it's based on a language, as long as it falls within these tracks. And it can be a solution-based one, or it can be I'm just identifying the problem now. So here is the problem I see with this, with this language, with this LLM model. Just give it to us. We will go from there. And I see someone, Aisha was saying, just listening for now. The conference is in person. The conference is in person and also virtual. So you get to either be virtual or you get to come in person. It depends on what you want to do. But if you are not able to come in person because the cost of travel, everything is there, no, right? So it will not be possible for some people. So you can actually present virtually. Also make sure whatever the format you are presenting, like let's say it's an art exhibit or something, like make sure it's you can actually show your art exhibit online virtually, or, demo it virtually. Find out if you can do that, like make a video of it and submit. That comes later. First, you have to tell us the problem or the nice things that you have found out about ChatGPT or any of those LLMs, or the missing use case now in a 250 words. And then later you can actually decide on the format that you will be presenting, virtually or in person. And this year, I think they made the virtual also more open. Your IPS took some feedback from all the affinity groups. So it's, they used to actually give virtual passes. It was all very, very limited. Like we had only 15 passes and we had to think of whom to give those passes and divide it among those who want to present virtually and those who are trying to come in. So now they said, we can actually have a Zoom that will be co-presented at Newer IPS, where anyone can actually present. So just like this Zoom call, there will be a video conferencing setup at Newer IPS where you can present your idea, your poster, your submission. So that it's more open this year. And I think we are getting there in terms of inclusion and diversity. It's a long, long way to go. We will take any feedback that we receive from this year and try to make it better next year. But we received all your feedback from last year and we have made this a very open, very easy to do call. So it should be pretty simple. There is absolutely no reason for anyone not to submit an abstract, not to submit the 250 word, paragraph. I think it's 2 paragraphs, right? 250 words. There's no reason for anyone not to do that. So somebody has raised their hand. Chris from LAN Africa. Are you saying hi or you have a question for us?
Hi, I have a question in terms of the submission. Is it possible to submit something related to the arts and graphics domain?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any?
It has to be in a language. I mean, you could prompt Midjourney or any of those image generators, AI image generators in your own language and tell us based on those 3 tracks.
I see. I'm actually asking for someone else, and this person it's coming more from the graphic side than the AI
Okay.
side. So,
Okay.
yeah, the person is doing something with AI for sure, but it's more of from a graphics design perspective. And I saw that the poster had a visual art exhibition thing as one
Yes.
of the formats.
Yes.
So it's possible.
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Okay. And I think it's called posted with NeurIPS. What happens if the person is not able to be at NeurIPS because, you know, visa and issues like that? Do you have, is it hybrid? So it's kind of the
Yes, it is
person.
hybrid.
Okay.
And if you are not able to make it there because of visa issues or cost issues, you can present virtually.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Tell your friend to join us in our Slack channel where, they could meet everyone who is here and ask questions and help each other out.
What's the link to the Slack channel?
Pariya, can
Okay, she sent it. Thank you. And one last question. It's like, does one need to register for the NeurIPS to join this workshop?
No, actually not this year. That's what I heard, because that used to be a barrier before. But I don't think it requires. But actually, the registration online to create an account with New IPS is free. Anyone can do that. Actually, some of our last year's submission people did that. So that is free, but there is no requirement for you to register and get a ticket for New IPS. No, those tickets are expensive.
Very. All right. Thank you very much.
I think we're also giving a certain number of free passes for the registration this year too.
Yes, we are getting a certain number of free passes. So that's actually for people who want to enjoy the entire New IPS conference and also to go in person. So those passes are reserved for that. But for you to actually present your poster, your art or exhibit or anything, you don't need any of those. It's more open this year, so more accessible in terms of getting your ideas out there into the larger audience. But still, they are restricting the number of people who can actually attend the conference. So we will have a limited number of passes to give out. But if anyone already has a visa and already has their travel budget ready to go, I mean, we can work with you and get you the free pass so you don't have to pay for the actual New IPS conference ticket.
Susanna, I just had a question. If somebody wants to share today's session with their friends, so where can they find the session that we had in the last 1 hour?
Should ask Pariya that question. She's in charge of that.
I just recorded. Usually we have a live stream, but today we did recording, so it'll be available on Sudha's channel. And also it'll be on the website. So I'll also put it in the chat, but I'll just put it in the chat.
I believe it will go up on our website and also on Sudha's YouTube channel. So
yeah, I mean, I'll just put the website link here as well first, but it'll be on the website. Okay.
Thanks, Aisha, too. Thank you. Thank you for joining. So, okay. Anyone else wants to go? Anyone else has a few questions? You all have links to our Slack channel. You all have, even if you don't have that, you forgot to capture that, you could go on LinkedIn and catch one of us and get the link. And we are here to answer all your questions. We are welcoming you to submit. So we don't want you to self-reject yourself and thinking, oh, this is not going to fit into that, so I'm not going to submit now. Don't do that. Just ask us. We will tell you. So, just I already told you many times now in the last 1.5 hours, like we will accept As long as it's a generative AI on your language, on your local language, we will accept.
Okay, I just have a quick question. Like from presentation, yeah, I got the sense that it's for the generative AI in our language. But when you mentioned that the what do you call it, the designer guy could join, I'm wondering if it's also with computer vision or it's strictly NLP applications.
So in terms of computer vision, like if you were doing a query or, asking ChatGPT to produce an image or asking Midjourney to create something in your language, and it is messing it up or it is doing an awesome job about it, that qualifies, even though it's not on NLP, pure NLP itself, but you are querying it in that language and it is producing something that qualifies. So it can be a graphic design, it can be a computer vision related submission.
Okay. Because the paper I worked with, it was computer vision, but we used generative AI. That's why I was wondering.
Yes.
It has to be language. Okay, sure.
Yeah, you
Thank
use
you.
generative AI, but you must be using it either in English or in your language, right? So, and it is doing something that you like or you don't like, going to tell us about it. So it has to be, it's generative, it has to be in generative AI. It can be an image, it can be a graphic thing, it can be anything that you are finding that is missing within the generative AI related to your language. So we are not saying you cannot submit a graphic design. You can if it was generated by generative AI, by a prompt in your language. Does that make sense? Like, did I confuse you further?
No, I'm still trying to get if because it's generative AI, but we didn't use ChatGPT. We're just using the style transfer. There are some models, so I guess
Stable
it's more
diffusion,
computer
Hugging
vision than
Face.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all generative AI, right? Stable diffusion,
Okay.
Hugging Face. It's
Sure.
they're all generative AI. Oh, yeah, that works.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, by the way, the recording will be available on bit.ly/weekly web playlist, which is the channel as well, but also the website.
Okay, good. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Please do reach out to us. Like if you're still confused, just write it out, something like, and say, hey, does this qualify? I mean, generative AI, there are so many tools out there. Like I couldn't name all of them, but they are all there. Like whatever tool, generative AI tool that you are using, and you are seeing something that you like, don't like, or you seeing something that's missing, send it to us. But as if you are seeing something that's missing, it has to always be, you won't see anything that's missing or praiseworthy unless it has to do something related to us, right? It has to be either missing context in our culture, it has to be missing context in our language. So I think I hope that makes it clear. Like, just send it to us and we will talk it through. Okay, I think we are done. Looks like we answered everybody's question and we have made it very, very open. So don't self-reject yourself. Do submit. And, even if it doesn't fit in or, if we see an issue with it, we will talk to you before we reject it and say, this doesn't work. We will work with you to make sure it works. Our goal is to take you there, not to reject you and say, hey, this doesn't work. Yeah, like Ash says, please don't self-reject. The chances of us rejecting you are almost zero. But if you self-reject, we won't even know that you actually wanted to submit something.
And you can always message us individually on the Slack channel too. Some people they've been giving their idea, and sometimes it works, and most times it works as well. So just message us and then we can confirm. Or you can message us even your abstract as well.
Yeah. It's since I told you that there's going to be no jury, there's going to be no peer review. It's going to be us. It's going to be me, Paria, Ash, and Sudha, who's not here, who's going to look at your abstracts. So it's a very open thing, it's you can directly ask me, oh, what can I submit this? You can do that. Right now, we are not doing the whole double blind peer review and all that process now. So it's us, you can ask. And we are not going to reject it unless you are talking about something in the English language or, any of the Western languages, and you're saying, oh, it's a problem there. We could actually direct you to some other affinity groups who are working in that region. We will ask you to submit. We will maybe even make you an introduction to them. But this is Global South. So Global South languages, Global South generative AI. It can be any generative AI tool that you have used and you are seeing a problem or nice thing about it. And I'd like to end with this. This is one of the best opportunities for you to have an entry point to newer IPS. That's the main mission goal of every affinity group at Newer IPS. There are many. There's the oldest one that I think is Women in AI, Women in Machine Learning. I was a presenter. I actually got my first submission to Newer IPS through them. Black in AI and Indigenous in AI, Queer in AI. There's like so many of them. And all of them may have their own agendas and mission statements, but their main goal is to take someone who could never get into Newer IPS and get them there. Get your foot in the door and put you on that global stage. Make your voice heard. You are as legitimate as anyone who's coming to Newer IPS. And that's your entry point to a global conference. And that could be an entry point for your research, for your future career plans, your work in this area. You are going to meet everyone there. You are going to have access to this world-class community of researchers. You are going to make sure your problems are heard on that global stage. And that's our main goal. So this year it's open, it's free for all. I wouldn't miss it. If such an opportunity came to me, I would just not miss it. So don't. So with that, I'm going to end because it's been past, more than 1.5 hours, right, Paria?
Yeah, it's been 1 hour.
Thank you. Thank you, Susanna, for the wonderful session. And we answered a lot of questions, and we were very happy that they were open and talking to us, coming to us with their problems. And thank you, Paria, for all the answering the questions on the chats. So she has been very active on the chat and answering all the questions. So I hand it over to you. A great thanks from me.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for sharing all your ideas with us. Thanks, Gabriel. I look forward to reading about your AI, generator AI,
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. And I look forward to, working on the topic. And the abstract should be ready in the next couple of days. So.
Yes. You already have the abstract. Whatever you told here, you could go back and write it out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, then. See you guys. Paria, you can end however you wish. You are the host.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you all for coming. I'll end the recording now.
Yes.
Submit your abstracts soon.